Hello and welcome to the Social Marketing Academy. Great episode lined up today. I have a good friend of mine, Greg Kihlstrom, who is with the Agile World. He is going to be talking to us about a lot of different little elements of the business and his business model, as well as he is my go-to expert when it comes to customer experience and customer experience management and measurement. So that is a topic that I want to dive into as well, which I know that you had lots of questions. I'll tell you a little bit more about Greg in about 1 minute or so. So definitely tune in for our interview with Greg coming up shortly. If you are visiting us or listening to us for the first time or watching us, because we do also have a video component of the Social Marketing Academy, there are many things for you to learn here. Basically, what I do is I look at my network of experts and I bring them in so we can have a full hour of chat. So we can talk about any of the topics that you are interested in and get free consulting at the same time. So if you have any topics that you'd like to hear about on the Social Marketing Academy, maybe it is digital advertising, maybe it is consumer experience management, maybe it's affiliate marketing, maybe it's website design, SEO, just get in touch with me directly and we will get a new show slotted in with an expert that can answer your questions. So get in touch with me. The easiest way is check out our website, Go Sales and Marketing. That's my digital marketing firm, the Go Agency's website. There you can find out our podcast page. Take a look there. You can look at all of our past shows, all of our past experts, as well as get links to connect with them. I'll do you one better. If you'd like an introduction to anybody that has been on a previous show, just ask. I will be more than happy to put you in touch with those experts to have them help you directly on any business concerns that you have. See, not bad, pretty easy. So what we want to do is get Greg on the line, but let me tell you a little bit about Greg first. Greg's a best-selling author. He has a great book, by the way. You should be checking it out. We'll be talking about that in a little bit. Speaker and entrepreneur, which is why he's here, right? He has worked with some of the world's leading organizations on customer experience, employee experience, and digital transformation initiatives before, during, and after selling his award-winning digital experience agency, Carousel 30. So we have a lot of questions for Greg that you have posed through social media. So I'm excited to get Greg on the line and start our conversation so you can learn more about how you can take advantage of that. And here he is. Greg, welcome to the Social Marketing Academy.
Oh, thanks so much. Looking forward to talking with you.
Fantastic. Well, I just told the audience just a little bit more about you and your experience, kind of like I got your elevator pitch out of the way. So, please introduce yourself and just tell them a little bit about yourself and the Agile World.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm a consultant, author, and speaker that works in customer experience, employee experience, and digital transformation. I'm a couple-time entrepreneur, sold a couple companies. I write for Forbes and a few other publications, and work with leading organizations to help them through transformational initiatives. So whether that's, customer experience, branding, digital transformation, all those types of things, it takes a lot of people working together and really understanding what the common goals are. And right. I like to solve big problems, so it's fun stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think if you're going to be in any sort of marketing at all, you have to be a problem solver and get passionate about that process.
Yeah.
So okay, we were talking about when I was letting everybody know a little bit more about you. We're talking about the company that you sold, Carousel 30. So okay. From my perspective, I'm always kind of like, oh, you sold your agency? How did you do that? Because I think everybody at one point or another is thinking, is there a way out? I mean, what's the next step for me? But what was your experience? Okay, I'm interested. What was your experience starting, running, and then selling a digital experience agency?
Yeah, so it went through many iterations, and right. So I will say, I'm a graphic designer actually I have a degree in photography, so no business training, okay. No background in business whatsoever. So I made a lot of the common mistakes. One is I started a company thinking that it would allow me to do what I love all day, every day. And instead, I had to learn about HR and finance and operations and all those other things. I've grown to, in some cases, love, and in other cases, at least make peace with some of those things. But so I did so many things the wrong way. I started a company with some friends from college, and
Okay.
we all went, and my ex-wife as well. So we, all things not to do. Everybody still talks to each other, so that's all's well that ends well. But so I did that. So I bought everybody out of the company, took it
Okay.
over. It was literally just me for so I started my company back in 2003. So, and I sold in 2017. So for 14 years there was a number of different iterations. So that was kind of the first iteration. And then I was working a lot. I was literally solo for about a year and a half or so, and I started outsourcing a lot to a few different companies. One in particular, I was starting to do all my work with, and then I ended up acquiring that company and bringing on the owner as a partner to Carousel 30. And then we ended up bringing on a third partner. So we had me as more of the creative and marketing, we had the technology person, and we had an operations person. That went on for a couple of years, or for about 4 or 5 years. And then I bought those partners out. We kind of decided, had some slightly different, we all talk as well, but still we had slightly different goals for the company. And so then after I bought the second round of partners out, I decided, what, this is good. But we were, at most we were about 25 people, which is good. It was, it was exciting. And there were plenty of days that I wanted to sell way before I ended up actually selling, to your point. But, I just made a decision when it was kind of back under my control that I wanted to do something. I wanted to either grow a lot bigger, because even at that size, 20, 25 people, there's a lot resting on, on a sole owner's shoulder.
Yep.
Either that, or I wanted to sell. And so, I made some overtures as far as buying other companies. None of it really panned out for lots of different reasons. And then I quickly pivoted to just, what, I'm ready. It's been 13 years at that point. Like, I'm ready, to what you were saying earlier. Like, I'm ready for something different. It's been fun. I've seen a lot of things change at that point. But so, the nice part is I positioned the company to do something financial that, that either I needed to get a loan to help acquire a company, or I needed to show solid financials if I was going to sell. And so I had positioned the company to do something like that for about 3 years prior. At that point, it became pretty easy. When I had a couple buyers, I had a choice of a couple to kind of pursue a little further. And I just, I had everything ready, everything together. The company was doing okay. I wish it was doing better, or else I'd be, on my private island doing this Zoom. But we were doing okay. Had a good successful sale of the company, but it was because there was a lot of pre-planning and a lot of forethought done, not just like, oh my God, it's been a rough week, I'm ready to retire or whatever.
Okay, so there's a couple things that you said that I'd like to dive into. One of the things that I thought was really interesting was you mentioned that you had there's been 2 instances in that life cycle of that company where you said, you're not on board with the vision that I have for the company, and I need to hold on to that, and I need to make a change. And both of those seem like they were very challenging, because the first one were a bunch of people that were close to you that you had a personal history with, and the second one you had financial interest as well as a professional relationship a bond that you were building, both which seemingly are very different but are very similar. Because I've been through those situations as well, not directly but indirectly through consulting I've done as well. I think it's really what triggered you. When were the flags on the play when you were like, I need to make a change? Like, what were the indicators for you?
Yeah, I mean, first, just general comment. I think all relationships bear similarity, no matter what type of they are. So to that point, but yeah, I mean, I think some of I have my own ambitions and my own kind of
Right.
vision for what I want to do. Everybody, the values are not good or bad. They're just different. So everybody has their own goals of what they wanted to do. I would say, in the first case, I think it was just a case of we were all young. We didn't really know what we wanted. There were some personal, the other people moved out of the area for personal reasons.
Right.
And so we just kind of started things before we really thought through, did we really want to do this for the next 5 years or not? I think that's kind of its own case. I think in the second case where everybody was a little, had a little more experience under their belts, I wanted to grow or make some big change. And I think the other partners were good with status quo. And again, things weren't bad. We were doing well, we were sustainable. No one was going out of business anytime, for any reason like that. I just wanted a lot more and my other partners just didn't. And so, fortunately we had the kind of relationship. I've heard nightmare scenarios. I'm thankful I haven't had to deal with that personally, but fortunately we just kind of came to an agreement of like, yeah, that makes sense. One of them is doing consulting solo right now, very happy doing that. It turned out like running a company was just not really what they wanted to do. They wanted a little more flexibility, and I wanted a little bit more. Right now I'm consulting solo again, so I kind of I know what that feels. I like that flexibility to a degree as well, but at that time, I had, I wanted to grow or do something with it.
So the first two times I understand, and then the third time when you decided to sell, was there any element of, I don't want to do this again, I kind of need to make a change to try something different? Or am I picking up that?
So I think it was, it didn't take me very long before I started another company. So it wasn't quite, it was a different company. I think what I was seeing was the exact work that my company was doing. So, just as quickly as I can, background, we started, we always built websites. So that was part of the digital experience part that we did. We started building them for very small companies towards the end, much larger, but we also did back in the day, social media marketing. In 2009, social media marketing was it was like magic. People would pay whatever you wanted to put you on retainer to do it. By 2017, everyone brought social media in-house, whether whether their niece or nephew was doing it or they hired a real, person to do it. That's depends on the organization. But, we made money hand over fist doing social media and good work, but, we made money hand over fist. And then all of a sudden it dried up almost overnight. Website, the cost of a website went, down. So in other words, the work that we were doing became commoditized so quickly.
Yeah.
I knew that I needed to do something drastic in order to stay relevant or just, kind of going on a growth trajectory. And to be honest, at the time, I didn't have all of that in me. I was burned out from 14 years of running a small agency.
For sure.
I got acquired by, at the time it was part of a roll up. And so we became the largest independent agency in the Washington, DC area where I'm based. So, I was excited because, I got to be part of a bigger team. I sat on the executive team, but as well, but, I got to be part of something bigger, got to work with some stuff that I hadn't really done. We were almost solely digital. The company that bought us also did video and events and some other things. So, got a chance to work with some other things, but yeah, it was just kind of ready to okay, let somebody else handle some of those other headaches. And let me just try being an employee, for at least a couple of years.
No, I completely understand that. So speaking of digital marketing, and your company's the Agile World, and all we've been talking about is pretty much agility, really, right? So how can digital marketers and agencies be more agile as this marketing landscape continues to change?
Yeah,
I give you both ears on that one, so go ahead.
Yeah, it's I try to embrace this agile. Just I consider myself an agile person in just my career even, and I think it goes back to what I was saying about the commoditization of services, and so early enough on, I wish I would have applied this better, but I came to the conclusion that it's the agency's job to bring new stuff, and whether that's creatively, always that's been the case, even since the Mad Men days or whatever. But it's actually an agency's job to bring new ideas, new channels, new services, new things to the table, with the understanding that the current and the old stuff is probably going to be consumed, and like there's going to be a full-time position within the client doing that kind of work. And I think social media is the perfect example of,
for sure.
2007, there was no one in-house at a company that did any of that. Now there's entire teams doing that. And agency work there are agencies that do social media for sure, but the nature of that work, the price points, the split between internal and external is very, very different than it was at first. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing. I think in anything is, whatever's going on right now, it's going to be kind of consumed by the client, brought in house, and then it's the agency's job to do something new. And I think strategy never gets old and never gets commoditized. So that's something, but that's where your strategy needs to be agile, and you always need to, the same strategy is not going to work year over year. So.
Exactly. And kind of, it's interesting because we're an organic social media first agency, the Go agency. And the reason I believe that we have weathered the storm, because what you're saying is absolutely true. We always approach our clients and we always tell them through the prospect, through the campaign, throughout, that at any point they should be bringing this in-house. If you bring someone in-house, we will help train them. We will tell them best practices, but they're not always going to understand the next level things. And that's where we can offer the support. So we never said, push all the chips in with us. We are going to create something that you're investing in that you can then take away, but we can still be add value through other elements. Now, would their campaign be as robust as it was before? No. But when you're grabbing for everything, it's like you're jumping out of a plane and you don't have a parachute, so you're trying to grab a bird to slow down. It's you don't have to grab everything. You have to approach a client where they are. And I think that that's one of the biggest misunderstandings within the digital agency world, that they're not looking at what the infrastructure of the company is and what they're looking for growth. I ask that immediately. I always say that, well, you're talking to us right now. What if you had someone on your team? Would you like that? Is that something that's exciting to you? Right. And usually 50-50, they'll say, no, I don't want to see it. I don't want to do it. And then I'm like, okay, then after we do it for 3 months, and when your boss asks why all these numbers mean, then you're going to be tasked to find somebody. And then that's when I can bring that conversation up again with you.
Yeah.
It's interesting because you have to, like you're saying, be agile. I mean, come on, how many times have I changed our campaigns in the last 2 weeks for clients? I mean, so many things are happening.
Yeah. And I think, so in addition to the strategic aspect, I also, when you're talking about organic, like content is something that, TikTok can come and go, and Snapchat and Facebook or whatever, like the channels themselves can come and go, but great content is great content. And I think that's another thing where agencies can shine, is again, knowing what the mediums are and the channels are that stuff needs to go on, having the strategy to put that, and even just having the creative chops to make it compelling versus, that's something where some large organizations, they have great internal agencies and they do a good job, but that's a tough thing for even big companies to do really, really well. And I think that's where I think agencies can focus, as well as, measurement, you bring that up as well, is like attribution measurement, like that takes someone understanding and keeping up with this stuff like day in, day out. That's something that I'm on the customer experience side, I'm very deep into that right now. I own the marketing agency. That's something that we really brought to the table as well. And that's something where, as a client, in-house, do you really want someone full-time on your staff that is like reading all the blogs and like understanding how do we get the latest metrics and the attribution modeling and all that stuff? And, maybe for in some cases it makes sense, but in so many others, that's another thing that agencies can bring to bear.
Yeah. And I think also, if agencies are out there listening to me, One thing is that when TikTok comes up, use it to broaden your client's mind and their approach to creativity rather than forcing them into that slot. Because we found that there's a lot of things that are popping up now that aren't immediately relevant to the client, but if they are offered in a way that they kind of opens them up to understanding how it could work, that understanding is going to eventually, because like you said, these mediums are going to go away. But if they understand how short bite-sized video can enhance and engage with their audience, they're going to be more apt to do it on the main platforms that are going to suck all of those people in. And then it's going to be something that you have to do. Okay, so I'm gonna take a little bit of a left turn. Okay, thought leadership is something that I'm really, really big on. And I know that you are as well. So what do you think how would you explain the role of thought leadership in building a brand? So even personal or a company?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the first way a lot of people find out about brands in the first place is because they're trying to solve a problem, and they're not sometimes, if I'm looking for a pair of socks, then yes, I'm going to go and either walk in the store or go online and like search for socks and whatever. But so often, where thought leadership comes into play is you're putting out, sometimes people don't even have the words for the problems that they have, and I think it's such a powerful form of education. And yeah, so you educate people, okay, this is the problem that you actually have. You have this pain point, but this is a problem that you actually have.
Right.
This is a way to solve it. And sure enough, when they start, moving through, I mean, because it's all about the sales funnel. I think it's modified a little bit over time or whatever, but the stages in the sales funnel are still the same. Like, people need to be educated before they start comparing services and products. So, before they start comparing you to your competitors, they're going to do that educational stuff.
Right.
If you've given them the advice of what their challenges are and some ways to solve it, sure enough, they're going to turn to you for, hey, can you solve my problem? So
Right.
I think, to me, that's what it's really all about. I mean, early on, there's here in DC, there's a million digital marketing agencies. I was competing, regionally. One way to set myself apart was just, okay, do I have something to say that is unique in the space? And, at first, to be honest, I didn't, and it took a little while to figure out what is my niche. And, over time, I feel like I've built this agile brand for myself because I believe so strongly in it. And sure enough, there may be many things that that's not a solution for, but when someone has a problem and they need an agile solution to it, they're going to think about me.
And this is a good segue into your book. What's the premise of your book, The Agile Brand?
Yeah, so it's talking about to branders and marketers, talking about the importance of customer experience. And so I think, it's one of those things where nobody's going to say that customers aren't important or that you shouldn't have a great customer experience. Like, I think everybody agrees with that premise, but I think where everyone gets caught up is, what does that actually mean to me and what I do within an organization? And so, when I told some of my like branding friends that I'm writing this book called The Agile Brand, they were like, what? No, like, brands need to be like solid, and you don't change it, and you need consistency and everything. And yes, there's a part of that, like your mission and your values shouldn't change day to day. And I think brands get in a lot of trouble when they all of a sudden put something out, Super Bowl commercials that put some fake it might be a good message, but it doesn't feel right because they just kind of slapped it on their logo on something. Like, totally. That's not consistent values. That's not, that. So in other words, there's those things that remain constant, but your audience is constantly changing. The market is constantly changing. Competitors, all of these other things are constantly changing. And so you need elements of your brand that are going to be agile as well. And so it's sort of this like this two-part thing of this constant, like, mission and values don't change, but everything else does. And you need to be nimble enough to understand that. And it comes down to the customer and the power that customers have that they didn't decades ago. I mean, social media, I think, opened the floodgates. It wasn't the only thing that ever did that. I think even like Consumer Reports magazine opened the floodgates, back in the day of giving some power to reviews and things. But, more recently, social and review sites and all of these things, like consumers have so much power now that they didn't used to have. And that's not bad. It just is, it's not good or bad. It's something that brands really need to embrace. And the ones that do, they're being successful. The ones that also understand that employees are part of that as well, are even more successful, because and the fact that I can only count on my, on one or maybe two hands, the brands that really truly get that is really sad, but it's something to look to.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I could probably agree with your numbers on how many hands you can count the people that understand that is. I don't disagree with you. I've seen that firsthand. Okay, so say there's a company that is looking to, they understand the importance of understanding the customer experience, and they want to start maybe listening online. What would be like a piece of advice that you would give to kind of like how to get them started if they even wanted to dip their toes into understanding what that looks like?
Yeah. So I think there's, depending on the size of the organization and just kind of how so the practice of customer experience. I mean, if you're a large organization, you've been doing like Net Promoter Score and, all those surveys that we all get a million times a day, how likely would you be to recommend, like those kinds of things. They've been doing that for years. The customer service or customer experience folks in an organization have been looking at those. I think it's time for marketers, and whether it's customer service or customer experience or both, to start talking and sharing that information and that data a lot more. And so I think I have lots of feelings on those surveys as well. They're not the end all be all, but they are a nice relative measure of customer satisfaction over time. So by all means, don't throw those away. But I believe in listening at many, many points throughout the process. And so, if you look at, and I think the thing is, a lot of marketers are being kind of thrown like, hey, why don't you handle customer experience? Particularly like mid and small organizations. They're like, it sounds similar to me. Some exec sitting somewhere is like, it sounds similar to me. Why don't you just own that? That's bad. And that's probably the topic of a whole other show. But customer experience and marketing are listening at the same points for similar enough things that you need to understand, well, like what is turning someone off at all of the different points in that sales funnel. And there's opportunity there too, from not only, personalizing information at different points and, to drive conversions, but also just personalizing so that people have the kind of experience that they want to have. Not everyone uses email as much as the others. Some people want text messages, some people. So again, it's not even about satisfaction. It's about preference. And it's about, at the end of the day, nobody wins unless we make a sale or we get, word of mouth or whatever the desired results are. But I think just listening and being intentional about listening at these different stages is step one.
Now, one thing going beyond step one of the things I was just thinking about while you were talking is I had a few consulting meetings with a brand. And what they had said to me, I said, well, do you have any customer sentiment analysis? Have you done any research into your process? Do you have any feedback? What are kind of like the stumbling blocks maybe in your sales cycle that you've heard about? And they said, oh, we've done a full review of that. Excellent. I'll send you over the details. And it was a year and a half old. I don't know if there's an answer to this, but how old is too old? I mean, when you're looking at data like that, because obviously I have to then think back to what the world was like when that was taken in terms of what the environments were. Was there a political climate? Was there like a pandemic going on? Was there, what other things could color those opinions?
Yeah, I mean, I think research at any point, like to your point, as long as you have the context in which it was taken, research always has some kind of value. But I think it becomes less valuable very quickly. And
Mhm.
so, I think I'm a big believer in getting real-time insights. And
Mhm.
the data from last week, we're all a lot closer to what was going on in the world or in the company or on a campaign, 1 week ago than we were 18 months ago. And it's really hard. You have to kind of piece things together to try to figure that stuff out. I think just understanding stuff as close to real time as possible is
Mhm.
just the best way to do it. And it's really the think to go back to the agile, the agile marketing approach would mean, we have these sprints of,
Mhm.
we're not doing an annual marketing plan. I don't even know if anyone does it like they used to way back in the day anymore, but we're not doing a 12-month plan anymore. We're doing a 1 month plan, maybe, if not 2 week plan. And assess it. Like, we don't want to do it so frequent that we don't have the benefit of getting enough data, but we don't want to also wait so long that, again, we lose touch with what was going on. And I mean, customers change. I mean, so many things change so quickly. It's not
Right.
even, you know, it's that, yeah, I think we just need that at a frequency. And if nothing else, to just show the relative change over time. I mean, because a good campaign may just have a shelf life of its own, regardless of how good it was, a week ago.
Mhm. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Um, Interested though, within with your consultancy, what type of questions do you help your clients out with? What type of problems do they come to you with? Like, what's like the number one issue that you're seeing currently?
Yeah, so I think a lot of organizations are going through digital transformations right now because
Yes.
they just can't get answers like we were just talking about. Like, they would love to see real-time data, or they would love to see the numbers from last week, but marketing has theirs and sales has theirs and HR has theirs. And in order to pull all those numbers together, it's going to take 3 weeks and a call to IT that's like installing
Yeah.
some new platform for somebody else. And so just that's the big
Mm.
problem right now. I liken it to like asbestos removal or Y2K or whatever. Like, I feel like in 10 years we're not going to be talking about digital transformation anymore, but
Mhm.
now it is such a big problem where, again, people got on board with the big data bandwagon, and so they're collecting all this stuff, but they forgot that they actually have to connect everything together in order to make
Mhm.
like real meaningful decisions from it. And so that's really, that's the big thing I solve for. Sometimes it's across an entire organization, sometimes within a team or
Mhm.
within a project, but it's like, and I think it it's simplified sometimes to, oh, well, that's a technical problem of like normalizing data so that, one
Mm.
database calls it the same thing as the other. There's cultural things that are required when you do a transformation. Like, everybody needs to be on board with the idea of sharing and holding each other accountable and showing stuff that not everybody used to see. Like, if marketing fails, HR is going to see it. And you know what? You need a kind of culture that like can look at that stuff and not point fingers and
Mhm.
whatever. So it's it's leadership driving change. It's everybody, being okay with kind of everyone seeing things in a little more democratic way. And then I guess the final thing is everyone being okay with continual change. And that's a big,
It's
there's the big
hard.
change, and then there's the continual little change that
Yeah.
a lot of people aren't used to that either.
Yeah, and I would say that that's one of the things that I've noticed, just overall, when I see any companies that are moving into different areas that they were uncomfortable with, or putting more weight into areas that they haven't put more weight into previously. Even if we're going straight up on social media, um, it's they don't know how they're going to be reporting. They don't understand what the metrics are going to be. They are thinking, okay, well then, what's my ROI? And I always say, okay, slow your roll there, Haas. The ROI is, there's two sides of that. There's a return on influence, and then there is a return on investment. But you have no conversion points on your website. None of your copy is converting. Your website's super duper slow. You want me to drive all of your traffic there. There's other things that we have to address first. And I think sometimes in the past, that was the end of the conversation. Oh my God, I have to design my website. That's going to take me 6 years.
Right.
Now it's a whole different conversation. And there's someone actually said to me recently, is it possible to get a report on demand? And I said, for what? And they told me what they wanted. And I was like, yeah, I mean, let us make sure that no one's at lunch when you're asking for it. But yeah, I can pull it. Everything's set up. We're like, oh my gosh, when we ask for our people internally to do that, it takes them sometimes 3 or 4 days. And it's like, well, you're not set up for success yet. And, let me help you. But yeah, real-time data is a game changer. But again, that culture is something else, because if the market, especially the marketing and sales teams, that's where I think a lot of the friction is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I mean, I think it's it's a stereotype, but that doesn't make it not true. Is everybody blame, sales points their fingers at one way, marketing, it's their fault, right? That my numbers aren't where they need to be. And, instead of, data has the ability to democratize a lot of things that are happening within,
Yes.
within the world at large as well, but, within an organization. And I think that's scary. And I get it, when your whole thing is kind of like us versus them within an organization, it's scary to think that, oh, wow, marketing, if you're in the sales team, marketing is going to see if we're driving towards our numbers or not. And we can see exactly what they're doing. That's a scary thing, but those walls have to break down in order for organizations to really be successful. And that's, that cultural change, it's tough. And, even it's tough when leaders aren't on board with that as well, because it's got to be driven by them. And that's where I do a lot of my work as well, is working with leaders of organizations to they've got to see it first, and then they can roll it and kind of reframe through, with their team of like, you're not just the sales team anymore. You're part of this. There's a big organization out there. You're part of that. Your job is to help marketing get better data, not help sales win the fight between sales and marketing, or whatever it was.
Yeah, no, and I think that's really smart, Greg, because getting the leaders engaged is always, sometimes it's challenging because they want the result, not the process. And I think that that's a big miss on a leader's point of, like, from a leader's perspective, because your team is going to be humbled by what they see. And also, as a leader, I think if you're a leader and you're invested in it and you really know what's going on and how this is going to roll out, you're going to see who's really producing. Now these people could think that they're producing, but not be. And those people, they're focused on the wrong goal. So just pivot them. But then there's the people that are padding their lives to be safe. And then those are the ones that are going to be squeaky, and they're going to be problematic, but maybe they're in the wrong role. Maybe you can move them laterally. Maybe they need to leave. There's so many options.
Well, and sometimes it's yes, but and sometimes it's that people are given the wrong goals.
Totally.
I mean, someone whose goals are reframed as, your goals span several teams or departments or whatever now, as opposed to what they used to be. I mean, a lot of people like winning games that they're given, and so that if they quickly find out how to win. And, if winning isn't necessarily always in the best interest of the company, it's not really their fault. Their boss gave them, like, here's how you win at this game. They're going to find out how to do it. Like, I'm that kind of person too. I like to win. I like to figure out how to solve a puzzle.
Really?
But I don't, if I'm not given the full information, and if the rules of the game are not set for the whole company to win, then shame on leadership for not, creating a game that is, where everyone is incentivized to do the right thing, as opposed to just look like they're being successful. So, yeah.
And I think that one from the experiences that I've had in this game is that metrics are always the one where everyone gets really stuck. And it's the scary thing to define, because I mean, God, I wish I had more hands. I could count all the times that I've seen a lead categorization. And the lead categorization, which is, it was defined in one company that I didn't work with, but I was commiserating with one of my colleagues and my partners, and they said that they had defined a lead for sales, anyone that shows interest in the company. So every single person that visited the website was counted as a lead. Every single person that signed up for the newsletter was considered as a lead. So then the sales team was saying the marketing materials were poor because they were getting so many leads and no one was interested when they were calling. They were trying to email and call every single person they were selling to people that just wanted to sign up for the free white paper or the free.
Yeah.
Man, talk about a mountain to climb on that one.
Right. Yeah, that's again, they were incentivized to get a high number of, maybe it was phone call, maybe they were graded on number of sales calls, obviously not completed sales, but whatever that metric is, it's just, you got to give people the right, you have to give them the right incentive, but you have to give them the right target to achieve. And there's going to be bad apples there that are just, they're not good fits for the team. But I do think if you frame the objective in a way that's beneficial, not just beneficial to that team, but beneficial to everybody, I mean, I'm an optimist, I guess, but I believe that a lot of people will do the right thing and reframe their behavior and perform better.
Yep, I think if the leadership endorses a structure and it has the right incentives associated with it, absolutely. I think that and I've seen organizations, the leadership being the issue, the leader being not super engaged, and the team understanding they're not engaged, so feeling like they didn't need to put in the full whack of engagement because their leader wasn't. But okay, let's take a little bit of a turn. I have another question for you in terms of customer experience. What should marketers familiarize themselves with outside of the immediate realm of marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I think understanding, so I think the relationship between marketing and customer experience, I mean, it is so parallel that it's good to understand just the different, I mean, first of all, in order to be a good marketer, you have to empathize with the customer. That's what we do in CX as well. So it's very similar. We, as a marketer, you want to retain customers and achieve word of mouth. Well, sure enough, that's what customer experience wants as well. I think where there's nice overlap, and where sometimes I think other execs get this confused, is marketing still needs to drive action and sales, or at least sales qualified leads and things like that. Customer experience needs to be concerned with some of those qualitative things that or preferential things. And while marketing may care about that because it drives a better lead if you reach someone on the right channel, I think building a little more empathy to some of those other things beyond just what calls to action are gonna be most effective and everything. I think that's where CX and marketing can learn from one another. And even saying it out loud now, it's not that different when you really think about it. I think smart organizations that separate those in the right way, those teams can work together very collaboratively and yet not step on each other's toes. And I think where I've seen customer experience done really well is there are like steering committees or some kind of group that works together across, it could be marketing, communications, customer experience, HR, IT, lots of different parts of the organization kind of working together. And I mean, even finance. I mean, if you think about how do you get, if you're a B2B company that sends out invoices, what's the process for accounts receivable, within an organization? That can be a terrible process if if you're late on your bill and someone harasses you. That's a whole customer experience issue that marketing doesn't know why there's drop off after 30 days or something. Well, maybe your accounting team is just rude or something like that. So bringing these people together, kind of sharing those pain points, I think, so I guess short way of saying that is understanding the entire customer experience across different teams. It's we do a lot of like journey mapping and things, and marketing does that as well from their own perspective, but really understand like what's the customer feeling and who are they interacting with at this company at each of those stages, and what does marketing need to know? Can they help craft messaging at each of those stages so that it feels on brand. And then, let the CX team or the IT team worry about some of the underlying, whether it's technical or platform issues.
And it's everything you said, I'm completely on board with, because one of the things that we did was we were noticing that the energy level was different at different parts of the customer journey. And we noticed that people were reacting oddly. Clients were acting oddly in different parts, and we couldn't really pinpoint what the thing was. And it was because the sales process was really, really empathetic. Then it got into the campaign and it was very aggressive. And then the collections was very cold. And then I said, hey guys, let's take a look at this. And we did, and we discussed it, and we found out, oh shit, we need to kind of have the same, let's all be friendly. Let's all be nice. Let's all be empathetic, but let's have that energy. And we made that change, and it's completely different, because before they didn't want to deal with they would ignore the billing questions. Now they're responsive. And then they were feeling like the salesperson was just closing them and going,
right.
Then we incorporated the salesperson into the onboarding process. And then so it really is a game changer. Like everything you're saying is spot on. It's a really good thing to look at, because the things that you can learn are really shocking, if you keep your eyes open.
Well, yeah. And I think, those billing people, they're not marketer, I'm sure they know, a ledger, like, like nobody's business, but their job isn't even in customer service. And so I think that's where, marketing can play a big role of just like, tell me, show me an email that you sent to someone that's 45 days late on their bill. Let me help you craft that. Because I know, they're probably writing it from an accountant standpoint or a bookkeeper standpoint or whatever. And it's probably factually like dead on accurate or whatever, but it's not friendly and it's cold to your point. And so let's drag that brand all the way through the process. And I think that's where marketing can really be valuable there. And if they only understand what are all of these messages going out to customers, and how can we help kind of make consistency there?
Yeah, I have a hot tip. It's something that I do internally. Is anytime I receive an email that I think I never want anyone to sound like this, I share it with the staff and say, never sound like this. Because this is completely the wrong message. This is completely not how you should be talking to somebody. This is not on brand. And it's actually really helped shape the internal culture. Right. So with that kind of, we're kind of wrapping up. Do you have any tips for companies out there, entrepreneurs that are looking to create agile brands or also having their company agile?
Yeah, I think, it's got to start with really understanding what the benefits of agile are. And so, I think it's one thing to say that word, and and some years it's trendier than others to use that word, and whatever, I use it no matter what. But it's like, I think you have to really understand what it is, what the benefits are, and what the potential downfalls are. And so, the way that I look at it is, to me, agile is not being reactive. And so, when we talk about being agile, it's actually being scientific and methodical about change, as opposed to saying, it's like, I can pull up Google Analytics and look at real-time analytics and see, oh my God, our campaign is failing right now because we're not getting the traffic that we wanted. Let's scrap everything and start over. That's being reactive. That's not, no one should do that. But to say, you know what, we're going to run this campaign for X amount of days or a couple weeks or whatever. We're going to take all the data. We're not going to make changes, just willy-nilly. Maybe if something just egregiously is wrong or what, if there's a typo, we'll fix it. But we're going to let this thing run because a lot of thought and a lot of planning went into it, a lot of research and everything. We're going to take this and at, methodical intervals, sprints, we're going to adjust and optimize and things like that. And so, in marketing, I think marketers in general kind of get that, whether they adopt it so formally or not, is depends on the marketer. But I think marketers in general have kind of gotten their heads around that idea, simply because things like analytics are more prevalent and easier to access and everything. I think as a business, it's harder to do that because there's a lot of other places within an organization that pride themselves on consistent, it's like talking about the brand, a brand is, there's pride in consistency, and the accounting team and HR, can be very compliance focused. And that's a good thing that they're compliance focused, but the world is changing, and people are resigning from their jobs and applying at rates we haven't. There's all kinds of things changing in so many different ways that we need to start taking a look again, not being reactive, but being methodical and agile in our approach. And I think that's the place to start, is just start thinking, well, if my entire organization was to be more agile and take a methodical look at how to change, what does that really look like? And again, some parts of the organization may be your IT team may already be super agile, and that's the way they think because they're all software developers from back in the day. Marketing may actually be 80%, if not 100% of the way there, but look elsewhere in the organization, because none of those teams, even if they're agile in their own ways, none of those teams actually works in a silo. And so, thinking holistically there, I think is the way to start. And then it's getting leadership, on board, across the entire thing. And from there, it's going to, vary widely how that gets implemented.
Okay, excellent advice. So where can people learn more about you, your book, etc.?
Yeah, so I'm very active on LinkedIn, so you can find me, search for Greg Kihlstrom. My website is theagile.world, so you can check out. There's links to my books, blog, and you can contact me for consulting and other things like that.
Okay, excellent. And also, anyone that's listening to this show or watching it, we're going to have all of Greg's links in the bio section of this, so you can take a look in the description and click around. Also, you can, if you want to get an introduction to Greg, reach out to him directly, or you can always ask me. I'm happy to put you in touch with him. Greg, thank you so much for talking to us today. Really, really eye-opening info.
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're gonna have you back again. I have a couple more things I want to ask you. So, okay, folks, we have some really great shows lined up. We're booking through the fall, so we have some great topics. Keep them coming in. Again, you can jog over to plug the Go Agency. GoSalesandMarketing.com is our website. There's lots of stuff that you can get there and free information. Yeah, it's great. Download it, yada, yada, yada. But check out the podcast page. You can check out the past shows, our past interviews, and click around and connect with any of the individuals that I spoke with. All right, folks, until next time, thanks for joining me on the Social Marketing Academy. Take care of yourself.